Hello! Today we get to learn about double angles. So this relates to how we were doing sum and difference of angles. The only difference is there are shortcuts for if the angles are the same. So I want you to go back and recall the story of Sinbad and Cosette. So if we have the addition identity, we have sum A plus B. Remember, Sinbad likes to put himself with Cosette, and then he likes to put his brother with her sister. Okay, now what happens if both the angles are the same? So for example, if you had sine 2 theta, which is the same thing as sine theta plus theta. So we have doubles. Reminds me of the card game where we slap them, but we're not going to slap them. Okay, so we have sine 2 theta. We're just going to apply the same formula because that's going to give us the double angle identity, which is really helpful whenever you're trying to solve identities and solve equations. This is one that I would highlight in my notes. So we have sine theta plus theta, so that's sine theta. If this is A and B, I'm kind of labeling that so you can follow this formula. And then I'd have cosine theta plus, here I'd have sine theta, and then cosine theta. Those are the exact same thing. Sine theta, cosine theta. So I have two of them, double and two of them. That makes sense. Okay, so I've got 2 sine theta, cosine theta. So that identity is super important. So if you ever have sine 2 theta, it's the same thing as having 2 sine theta, cosine theta. Please highlight that in your notes because it's going to come up later whenever we are solving trig equations. Another identity that's important is very similar is whenever you have double angle with cosine. So here's our sum identity. Remember Cosette, she doesn't really like Sinbad, getting these names mixed up. So Cosette puts herself with her sister. They change the sign and then put Sinbad with his brother. Okay, so from there we're going to follow the formula. This is cosine of theta plus theta, because 2 thetas. We'll call this one A, this one B, even though they're the same thing. We're going to follow this formula. So we've got cosine theta, cosine theta, minus sine theta, sine theta. So cosine theta times cosine theta, well, that's cosine squared theta. Sine theta times sine theta, that's sine squared theta. So cosine 2 theta is equivalent to cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta. And that's not to be confused with the Pythagorean identity. It is not the same thing, folks, because if we look at sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1, there's absolutely no way that I could get cosine squared minus sine squared equals cosine 2 theta. So these are not the same identity, they're different. All 3 of these identities are pivotal, so make sure you have them all highlighted because they're all super important. Okay.